Did you know that the cost of poorly organized meetings in the United States in 2019 was $399 billion? That's a ridiculous number. Stay tuned to learn about how powerful communication tools that will help you and your organization to stay focused in meetings, conversations, and presentations. Hi, I'm Dale Fallon, and welcome to Live at the Gym, where we work out our communication muscles so that we can improve the quality of our conversation. Before we meet today's guest, Brittany Johnson, let's talk about what you can do to improve the quality of your presentations and your conversations. 47% of Americans complain that meetings wasted their time, was the biggest waste of time at their work. For more staggering statistics, we'll drop a link in about how these communication tools will help you and what you can learn more about how communication affects your work and what the costs are. But today we're going to talk about a very specific cool tool called the level playing field. It has three component parts. There's the purpose, the process, and the time frame. And it's a very simple process that you can use and build on so that you can improve every conversation that you're having. And we're going to talk a little bit about presentations today with Brittany Johnson, who is a returning guest. We'll dive into it here. Brittany is a research assistant in the Department of Humanities at Penn State College of Medicine, and she's also got a background in philosophy. Brittany, welcome back.
Well, thank you for having me back, Dale. Hello.
Hello. It's great to have you. What drew you to philosophy, by the way?
I've always been the why child. So whenever I would get rules thrown at me or things, I'm like, okay, but why? And then who told you? And why are they credible? And why should I listen to them and you? So I drove my mother crazy, but philosophy's always been in my bones.
So you got into that 2 and 3 year old stage of why and never got out of it. It's just
exactly.
Well, you and I had a conversation earlier this week that kind of sparked bring you in today, because we were talking about a level playing field. And first of all, let me go a little bit about what that tool is to reinforce it. At some point in time when we're in a conversation or a meeting, we want to get the conversation focused. We want to dial in to give expectations, to set clarification, and to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to stay on the same page and to really draw their attention. That tool we call the level playing field, and it's a statement that you make that starts the meeting or the presentation going forward, and it drives the focus and it keeps it there. It has 3 parts: purpose, process, and time frame. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the conversation that we had, Brittany, and then in the exercise that we're going to have you do, we're going to have you take a presentation that you have upcoming and work through how to build that process, how to build out that statement, and then practice it a few times. Are you game?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, great. So the challenge that you talked about initially in our conversation with level playing field was that people kept asking questions, and it kind of got, you had a presentation laid out that had a very clear, set of expectations, but people kept moving in different directions and throwing it off. Talk a little bit about that and what happened.
Yes, actually. So I was in a Zoom meeting, and I had a specific part of the presentation. So it was a larger presentation. I just had to drive one aspect of it. And when it was my turn to share, I was getting cut off, or I had questions thrown at me, which would throw off like my train of thought as far as like, okay, we want to do this next. And so I walked away from the meeting feeling a little bit more frustrated because I felt like I wasn't showing exactly my credibility and like really representing myself properly, because I felt like I couldn't accurately represent myself since I kept getting cut off. And so I wanted to meet with you because you are the communication guru.
A fellow traveler and practicer, Brittany. But what we talked about, and that frustration is so common for people, is that they have something that they want to say or have a conversation that they want to say, but it just doesn't go the way they wanted it to, right? They go into it with an intention, and it doesn't go the way that we want it to. So the level playing field tool is, first of all, a thought process. And we walk through that thought process with you in terms of purpose. What do you want the outcome to be in this presentation? You've got to set, especially in presentations, right? You've got a set amount of time. You should know really specifically what you want your outcome to be. and what you want people to go away with. So we'll dive into that when we do the exercise for today. But that's the first step, is to get clarity on what you want the outcome to be and dig deeper, right? Then you have a given set of time. We've got 10, 15 minutes for a presentation, and then we backtrack and come into process. What needs to happen within that 10 or 15 minutes for you to achieve that purpose? And that's where setting the stage for, please hold your questions till the end, or I want your questions back and forth, or write down your questions, thinking through how the process of the meeting is going to go so that you can effectively set the table. And this is where the leadership piece comes in for you, because you're a great communicator and you've got so much energy and enthusiasm when you bring it to the table. To set the stage by using this level playing field statement gives you the power and authority. And people will, when you tell people what the expectations are, they're most often going to go, oh, okay. They're going to get on board. They're going to jump in. And when you do that for a presentation early in the presentation, it really gets them engaged and allows them to follow a process, and it establishes you as the leader within that period of time. That makes sense?
Yes, it does.
It's not just a tool that we use for presentations. It's a tool and a mental habit that we want you, encourage you to use for almost all of your conversations. If you're going down the hall to have a chat with someone, think in your head, okay, what's my purpose? What's my outcome? Now, how much time do I have? And then what's the best process to make that happen? And turning that into a statement like, hey, Brittany, I've only got about 5 or 10 minutes, but I'd love to talk to you about the 3 options that we have in going forward with our next steps on the proposal. Do you have 10 minutes so that we could come to a decision on that today, right now? Right. So now you know exactly what I'm asking of you. This is the other side of the LPF. It gives you the opportunity to buy in or to renegotiate, right?
Yes.
I don't have 10 minutes today, right now, Dale. Maybe we could do it at 3:00. Or that sounds great, but I think we need more than 10 minutes. Let's take a half hour because we've got some questions, right? So when you make that statement up front, it gives people the option to buy in. Then once they're bought in, you're free to go forward and have a great presentation, conversation, or meeting. It really is a powerful tool. One of my favorites in our toolbox in terms of establishing effective conversational norms and making you a great communicator.
I love it. I'm definitely on board.
You ready to work out? You ready to get
I
a
am.
workout?
Yes.
Okay. So you've got a presentation coming up, I think you told me, in January. Let's talk through that presentation a little bit. First question, how much time do you have?
I will be having 20 minutes to talk freely, and then there's 10-minute Q&A and 10 minutes with a commentator.
Okay. And then let's backtrack now into the purpose. What's your outcome for that conversation?
Well, my outcome is to raise awareness about implicit associations in healthcare encounters, specifically for women of color. And I would love for the audience to walk away from my presentation thinking a little bit more about the different ways that they can have an open mind and contribute to more equitable medicine.
Okay, great. And let me try to reflect that back to make sure that I got it right.
Okay.
You're doing an educational component that shares some information about implicit bias, and the outcome is so that your guests, your participants, the people in the meeting, your audience will be able to make better decisions towards more equitable outcomes in the medical field.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, excellent. And what process do you think will help you best get there? If you're thinking about that 20 minutes you have, let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, I wanted to highlight the different ways that I came to this conclusion about implicit associations. And I also wanted to spend time talking about what implicit associations are and the ways that they can show up subtly, because they are implicit. A lot of times people don't acknowledge that it's happening because it's usually a subconscious process.
Yep.
And then I also wanted to highlight the reasons why it impacts specifically women of color in healthcare encounters with the power dynamic, and touch on why it should be addressed and why I decided to research it.
Okay, good stuff. Talk to me about how you want it. Are you presenting the whole 20 minutes? Do you want people to ask questions? How do you want the interaction between you and the audience to go?
So for the first 20 minutes will just be me talking and like laying out my paper essentially that I wrote, and just like explaining that. I will have some slides as well. And then the 10 minutes of Q&A is when people in the audience can actually ask me questions or give like feedback on the paper and things like that arose, because they were able to read it before I presented. So they do have my paper.
Okay, perfect. So the first section when you answered was kind of the agenda and the timeline that you're going to go for. Important
Mhm.
to share,
Mhm.
but I'll pull that out of the level playing field statement
Okay.
to keep it really succinct.
Okay.
So let's have you take a shot at purpose, process, and time frame for this meeting. And let's start with the bullet points.
Okay, sounds good. Hi, everyone. My name is Brittany, and today I will spend the next 20 minutes talking about implicit associations and how, by taking the time to have an open mind, you can also contribute to more equity in healthcare.
Awesome. 20 minutes. You missed the process. What's the
Oh,
process?
yes. Okay, I'll try it again.
Yep.
So the process is going to be me going through the slides and just talking about what I'm doing. So when I do my statement, I would work that in before the time frame. So
Yep. Well, it doesn't. The order doesn't necessarily matter. What's important with this process piece is that I'm going to be running through a slide deck. It'll take about 20 minutes. I want you to hold your questions until the end. Write down your questions. I want your feedback and I want your questions, but we'll have a time for those at the end of the presentation.
Okay.
All right, here we go.
I feel like I'm being tested. Hi, everyone. My name is Brittany, and for the next 20 minutes, I will be sharing some slides with you on implicit associations, and I would love to have some questions at the end, but I would like to go through the different ways that you yourself can contribute to more equity in healthcare by addressing the power dynamic and implicit bias.
Awesome. You got all three component parts in there. Hold your questions till the end. Now, you're not being tested. We're just practicing and you're doing great.
I know.
That's
my disc profile coming out.
Yeah, it is. But what's important about this, and you and I talked about this earlier in the week too, is that this is one of the most important pieces of your presentation, to be honest with you. The first 30 seconds and the last 30 seconds are what people remember. So the reason this is such an important piece to practice, and I'm going to have you do it at least 2 more times here for us. The reason it's so important to practice is you set the stage. What do people have from an expectation? You talk about implicit biases, right? We all have biases when people present, and sometimes if people are too aggressive when they come out or they're yelling at me, my whole demeanor is, whoa, why are you yelling? So we want to find the balance, and the best way to find the balance is to practice. So let's have another shot at it. You're doing great. Another shot at the level playing field for this.
Alrighty. Hello, everyone. My name is Brittany, and for the next 20 minutes, I want to share some slides with you and talk about the way that implicit bias can impact healthcare encounters and the ways that you yourself can contribute to more equity in medicine. And I would love to have some questions at the end, and I would love to get started.
Boom. Excellent. I'm going to have you do it one more time, even though that was so much better than the first one, because you were comfortable and conversational, but yet you were also confident. You just put it out there. So you're doing great. One more shot.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Brittany, and for the next 20 minutes, I'm going to be sharing some slides with you on implicit bias and the way that it impacts healthcare power dynamics. And I would love to have some questions at the end on the ways that you yourself can contribute to more equity in medicine.
Beautiful. I'm still going to have you practice it like 20 more times before the presentation, but it's so clear and concise. It's so, and it's conversational, and you establish yourself. People in that meeting room, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to go along. So now my mindset, and you know this too with your research on bias, right? When we start with a bias, we look to reinforce. Our brain is designed to reinforce what we're thinking. So if I think, oh, she doesn't know what she's doing within the first 10 seconds of the meeting, my brain is going to try to reinforce that. But I think, oh, Brittany's got this down. She knows exactly what she's doing. Then the rest of my content goes into that side of the brain that's processing, analyzing, and putting into shape. Fantastic job, Brittany.
Thank you. And I'm thank you for this help. It's so much, it's very helpful.
Well, you're doing great. And I want to reinforce it. And for the audience as well, the people that are watching, this is the type of practice that allows you to improve the quality of your outcomes by focusing on a few moments in time. 30 seconds, practicing and being really good at small snippets and segments of the conversation that have the most impact. And this is where this overarching practice of a continued development of specific skills is going to allow you to become a much more powerful communicator. And Brittany, we certainly appreciate you having you on here and your willingness to practice and show our audience what it looks like to do good work.
Thank you for having me. I love coming to the communication gym.
Well, we'll have you back. I want to invite the rest of our audience to join us here on Thursdays on LinkedIn for more communication workouts. Please remember that don't practice until you get it right. Practice until you can't get it wrong. You can grab your complimentary playbook page in the comments section below, and be sure to subscribe. I can say that word. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and our blog for more communication practice tips and exercises. Thank you again, Brittany, and thank you for joining us for this week's workout, and we'll see you at the gym.